You know that feeling, right? You wake up, and before you've even had your coffee, your brain is already running a full-on PR campaign for the day. You're pitching yourself, you're thinking about the metrics, the milestones, who you need to impress. It feels like drive, sure, but it also feels a whole lot like pressure.
And if you get really quiet and listen, it almost sounds like debt. Not, a financial debt, but this constant low-grade debt to expectations. Expectations you might not have even chosen for yourself, but somehow you're still on the hook to pay them back. That's what we're going to unpack right now, where this feeling comes from, what it's costing you, and most importantly, how to trade it in for an ambition that is actually yours.
So let's just start with this one big question, because it frames everything we're about to talk about. What if that intense drive that pushes you so hard, the one you think defines you, what if it isn't really yours at all?
All right, let's dive in. To get a handle on this, we've got to give it a name. We're talking about something called borrowed ambition, and it usually comes with this feeling of what you might call brittle achievement.
So what does that mean exactly? Well, borrowed ambition is when you're doing all these hard things, but the main reason, if you're being honest, is to get approval or status or just a feeling of safety. From the outside, it looks amazing, like total success. But on the inside, the wins don't bring that deep joy you were hoping for. They just bring relief. For a minute. And rest? Forget about it. Resting doesn't feel like recovery, it just triggers guilt.
Let's do a really quick diagnostic, a little gut check. Here's the first question for you. Think about a big goal you're chasing right now. Now, imagine you could achieve it, but on one condition. Absolutely nobody would ever know. No praise, no promotion, no Instagram post. Would you still want it just as much?
Okay, and here's the second one. Think back to your last big win. After that first rush of excitement, what was the feeling that stuck around? Was it a deep, genuine sense of pride? Or was it more like, phew, okay, I'm safe, for now. I've proved I belong until the next thing.
And finally, question number 3. What happens when you actually stop? Like you take a vacation or even just a quiet weekend? Do you feel recharged, or do you get this weird nagging feeling that if you're not actively doing something, not achieving, you're kind of disappearing? If you found yourself nodding to 2 or more of those, well, there's a good chance you're carrying around someone else's goals.
But here's the tricky part. If it's not our true purpose, why is it so darn convincing? Why does this pressure feel so much like purpose? Let's dig into the psychology here, because it explains a lot.
There are a few big psychological drivers at play. First up is something called contingent self-worth. That's the belief that your value as a human being is tied directly to your performance. So if you stop performing, you feel worthless. Second, fear becomes a bigger motivator than curiosity. Fear of losing your spot makes you play it safe, while curiosity, which is where real growth happens, gets pushed to the side. Third, you've got imposter patterns. This is where you use your achievements as a way to prove you belong, instead of just, expressing your skills. And finally, you've got these powerful external scripts from your family, from our culture, and oh boy, from social media, all feeding you a prepackaged definition of what success is supposed to look like.
Now, living like this isn't free, not by a long shot. It might look really successful from the outside, but trust me, there is a hidden bill, and eventually it comes due. These are the serious, often invisible costs of constantly performing for an audience. These costs really fall into 3 big buckets. First, the cognitive costs. That constant low-level anxiety just burns you out. It tanks your focus and shrinks your creativity. Then there are the social costs. Your relationships can start to feel transactional, and your sense of belonging feels, rented. It's only good as long as you keep succeeding. And maybe the biggest cost of all is to your identity. You end up closing the door on your true pathway way too early. And because the why was never really yours, your sense of meaning just slowly fades away.
So, this is the really crucial part. We have to learn how to separate this draining, borrowed pattern from real, healthy ambition. So let's put them side by side so you can start to spot the difference in your own life. And the difference is wow. It's stark. Borrowed ambition, it's fueled by fear and comparison. Healthy ambition comes from your own values and your own curiosity. With borrowed goals, a big win just feels like brief relief. With healthy ones, it feels like pride and gratitude. Rest with borrowed ambition just triggers guilt. But with healthy ambition, rest feels earned and totally essential. But listen to the self-talk. Is the voice in your head saying, I have to prove I'm enough? Or is it saying, this is mine to build? That right there,
That's everything. Okay, so we've figured out what the problem is, we understand the costs, so how do we fix it? Well, the good news is there is absolutely a way out. Let's walk through a simple 4-step framework to start reclaiming your drive and making it your own again.
All right, step 1, surface the lenders. I mean, literally, name the voices. Is it your parents, your boss, your industry? Who are you trying to please? Step 2, re-anchor in your values. What are the principles you would stick to even if no one was watching? Step 3 is to actively restore your core psychological needs, the need for autonomy, competence, and connection. And finally, step 4, shift from just chasing goals to building systems. Focus on repeatable processes that reflect your values. That's how you turn a wish into a plan. A framework is great, but let's be real. Change happens when we actually do something. So let's get super practical. Here are a few moves you can make this week to get started.
The first thing you can do is a goal portfolio audit. Just take each of your big goals and ask yourself, why am I doing this right now, and who is the real owner of this goal? Is it me or is it somebody else? Then look for actual evidence that this goal is a good fit for you. If that owner column is filled with other people's names and the fit feels thin, it might be time to redesign that goal or maybe even drop it.
And never underestimate the power of your own internal language. Try these simple shifts. Instead of saying, I have to do this, try saying, I choose to do this because, and then actually finish the sentence. Instead of thinking, I'm so behind, reframe it, I am on a different curve. And try to shift your focus from, what will they think of me, to the much more powerful, what will I know to be true? It's all about moving from obligation to ownership. So here is your challenge for this week. I want you to pick just one goal, one that feels particularly heavy. Then name just one lender, one external voice that's attached to it. And finally, choose one small, tiny move you can make to feel a little more in control, a little more autonomous around that goal. That's it. Just do that one small thing and see what happens.
And let's end on this, because it's the most important takeaway of all. The solution here is not to become less ambitious. Ambition is an incredible engine for a meaningful life. The problem was never the ambition, it was the dependency. The goal is ownership. Because when your drive is truly yours, effort starts to feel like self-respect. And success, well, success finally feels like truth.